This is One-on-One with Jasper Cole, Hollywood's bad guy, and so much more. Actor, talent manager, producer, and more. Now he's sitting down with today's top newsmakers from entertainment, politics, pop culture, and beyond. This is One-on-One with Jasper Cole.
Woo-hoo! All right. Howdy, everybody, and welcome to One-on-One with Jasper Cole. This is your host, Jasper Cole, and we are coming to you live today from Hollyweird, California, right here at Sunset Gower Studios, and I want to thank you all for tuning in. This is our fourth show on this new journey. Couldn't do it without you. I want to give a big shout out to my producer, Mr. John Williams. Hey, buddy.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm just in the background today.
Yes, we're changing it up a little bit today, but couldn't do this without you. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I'm happy to be back.
I'm getting to see you once a week now.
I know.
We used to do my other show once a
month.
month.
Yeah.
And so now it's like a weekly gig.
Yeah, it is.
I really love it.
Yeah, I'm
thank you
enjoying it
guys,
too.
all the listeners and viewers who've been tuning in each week, and thank you for your tweets and Facebook messages. And so as a reminder, you can follow us on Twitter at @1on1jcole. And I'm sure it's up on the screen.
Yes, it is.
And Facebook, of course, One-on-One with Jasper Cole. And then website, jaspercole.com. And today's show I'm really excited about. Well, I'm excited for two reasons, the topic and the guest.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to spend this whole edition today talking about addiction and recovery, and or both. And I'm really excited about our guest, beautiful actress, model, host, but really advocate and I would say expert on addiction and recovery. The beautiful Jennifer Gimenez will be coming in here shortly. And the thing I love about Jennifer, besides her looks and her heart, is that this is someone who doesn't just talk the talk, but she walks the walk. Mm-hmm. She's been very open to talk about addiction in her own life and her own recovery, and she helps millions of people with her speaking engagements around the country and around the world. But she's also involved in a project called Superbook.com, and she'll tell us all about that today. And she's spending a lot of time in Florida, and we'll have to talk to her about that. She's traveling everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's really keeping the airwaves hot with the...
Check her Twitter, because she updates it regularly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And JW, I don't know about you, but I think it'd be hard pressed to throw a rock in this country and not find someone that addiction has not touched either them or their family, right?
Very true, yeah.
I mean, I have it in my family, I have it in my extended family, and I don't know if it's I guess addiction, of course, there's many kinds of addiction.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that today.
Mm-hmm,
It's not just alcohol and drugs. There's
right.
sex and there's food. But I think alcohol and drugs, of course, seem to get most of the attention.
Yeah.
But I've been getting a lot of interesting questions from viewers and people I want to talk about. There's controversy about addiction. Is it a choice? Is it genetic? That's a very polarizing thing within this topic. I'd love to talk to Jennifer about that.
Right.
And, all kinds of issues. So I want to encourage people to call in or tweet in. John is the one handling the chat room. So if you have questions for Jennifer on this topic, please do, tweet it in. And once you're logged onto the show, you're automatically in the chat room, right, JW?
Right. They
Okay.
just go to ubnradio.com and then click on channel 1, and you will be into the chat room.
Perfect. Well, that's the thing. Like I said, I really want to get into it with her about addiction and how it not just affects the person, but how it affects the whole family.
Right.
There's a domino effect with addiction. And there's a school of thought that can it be cured? Can you recover? Well, someone like Jennifer, and there's a whole list of people who you can point to and show that yes, you can. As every addict says, it's day to day.
Right.
You
one
learn
day at a time.
One day at a time, and we'll talk about the different programs and stuff like that. So. That's exciting. I mean, I just love Jennifer's been a guest on my other show, On the Set with Jasper Cole, where we just hooted it up and had fun and laughed or whatever. But I've always actually wanted to be able to really sit down and talk about this with her, so we have time to actually get into it. It's her passion, and also just thank her for what she does.
Yeah.
She's really an advocate, and she puts her heart into it. So
courageous voice.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
sure.
And it's not just addiction in Hollywood, of course, because Hollywood and celebrities, of course, make the news, and
they're under a magnifying glass.
right. But addiction is hitting small towns, poor people, rich people. It's really an epidemic.
Right.
across this country. And so it's fascinating to me. Also, we can get into, does insurance pay for treatment, and what that whole controversy is, is it covered, and is enough medical attention or psychological attention being brought to it? And it goes back to that thing I mentioned about there's camps that think, well, it's a choice. So clearly you don't need a doctor or whatever.
Or if it's some sort of stem from trauma,
PTSD.
Yeah,
And then
coping mechanism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I truly believe there is a genetic predisposition. I mean, I have had addiction in my family, and I have not had addiction to alcohol and drugs. However, I'll be honest to admit, I think I've had an addiction a little bit at times to exercise
and
or
coffee.
Oh my God. Okay. Thank you, JW. I just want you guys to know this is not a pity party for Jasper, but
I thought it's a timely show.
thank you. Because you know what? My brain, I actually forgot it, but I just want you to know that I am on my 6th day. This is my 6th day without any caffeine whatsoever. And I just want you to know, I'm someone that I was drinking 80 ounces of coffee a day. Now, when you hear that, it sounds ridiculous, but I never thought of it that way, because I would drink like a 20-ounce cup in the morning, and then I have a 20 ounce a few hours later. And then every afternoon around 4 or 5, I'd have another 20 ounce and another. So I'd end up with 4 20-ounce cups of coffee, which, if you can do the math, is 80 ounces. So I think you would say I had an addiction. It was not helping anxiety and stress, and then it was also causing gastritis and esophagus problems. So we'll make this into a medical show all of a sudden. So needless to say, I've had to go cold turkey. Well, that's the thing. I didn't have to go cold turkey. That's a part of my personality that I tend to do all or nothing. So tomorrow will be a week. I've had no caffeine whatsoever. I'm really angry. No,
you're not.
No, actually, the truth is, I think I'm over that hump part now. Yeah, because I think I'm feeling myself again. When you, it's a habit.
Right.
And we could talk about, this is,
Well, have you used anything to replace it?
Well, I'm drinking herbal tea.
Okay.
I'm drinking like decaffeinated green tea and chamomile tea, but I think a lot of it for me was a habit, was a routine.
Yeah.
And then, but it does, I think the key is anything in moderation. I mean, not drugs. I'm talking caffeine, certain foods in moderation. But that was a perfect segue, talking about my own addictions, in terms of exercise and controlling foods that I eat or whatever. So we're going to talk to Jennifer about that. I've been told before, like, I'm not an alcoholic, but I have friends that said, well, Jasper, come to AA with me because you have an alcoholic personality. So, I think that goes back to the gene for addiction.
Yeah, and I've actually attended some AA meetings with friends to be of support.
Right.
And they do have you stand up and and introduce yourself. And I stood up and said, "My name is John. I'm addicted to sugar."
Well,
so
it's true.
It's true. I mean, I'm laughing about it, but it actually,
these are all stimulants.
They are,
right. And so, I mean, like, even with the exercise, they just say, well, at least it's exercise. It's not, crack cocaine or whatever. But I think that's what I notice in myself.
Yeah.
I believe I have a genetic predisposition. It just wasn't for alcohol or drugs, because I drank in college to excess, and I was able to stop. And I pretty much tried a lot of drugs. Okay. But I never felt anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think if I were going to be an addict, it would have happened.
Yeah.
So again, that's my philosophy about having the genetic predisposition. So anyway, you can see it's a topic that we probably need 3 hours to talk about, but I'm excited. Yeah. And I just really hope, John, give out the phone numbers so in case people want to call in today.
It is 323-843-2826.
Perfect.
323-843-2826, which is 2UBN.
Yes, and I have I got some questions already off of Facebook and Twitter that we'll talk about. And like, again, if you want to go onto the chat room, log in, and JW will take your questions. And again, remember Facebook and Twitter and all that good stuff. And JW, let's take our first break.
All right.
And when we come back, we're going to be joined by the lovely Jennifer Gimenez.
Awesome.
You are watching and listening to 101 with Jasper Cole.
You're back one-on-one with Jasper Cole.
Woohoo! All right. Howdy, and welcome back. Here we are, and my mic is this big black thing's falling everywhere. Oh my God. This is supposed to be my really serious show, Jennifer. I'm supposed to be very together. Okay, welcome back. As we mentioned, we are now joined by the beautiful and the talented Jennifer Gimenez. Hi, gorgeous. Jennifer and I are just saying, we were like talking and all the stuff we should probably be saving for the interview, but we haven't seen each other in like a year and a half.
I know. It's been a long time. Should I be resentful?
No, because that other show I do is only once a month, but now this is once a week. But you're top of our list to come in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but we just lucked out and got you because you always are traveling.
Yeah, and can I just say, congratulations on the show. I love that name, One-on-One.
Thank you.
It's so amazing.
Thank you. Well, because my other show it's great and it's a party and it's 2 hours, but I wanted to be able to sometimes I'm going to turn a little bit.
I feel like I need to talk to you like this because this is my better side. But
so go ahead.
Okay, we'll just talk like that.
Switch seats.
Am I okay here, Jaden?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just saying you could switch seats if you want.
No. I just because it's weird.
No,
I like
that labels me a real big diva.
Well, I'm the diva. No. But no, because I've wanted to do a show where I could actually just talk to someone and spend time. And I know with you, because you act and you model and you host and you have the whole reality thing, but I know that your true passion is addiction and recovery.
Yeah,
because this has been your journey. And one thing I've always loved about you, many things, is that. And this, if I were an addict, for instance, I would gravitate towards someone who's actually been through it and walks the walk and has been there. It's sort of like when you go to a doctor. I'm always like relieved that sometimes the doctor might have the same thing I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're kind of dealing with someone from a textbook kind of. Like a therapist or a psychiatrist can talk to you about addiction, but if they've never actually lived it,
it's hard to trust
different.
That. Yeah,
Right?
it's hard to trust that. It kind of, thank you. I'm honored that you say that. It's when you were saying, first of all, when you were saying about a model, actress, all this stuff, but my true passion is recovery.
I know.
And it's not just from alcohol and drugs, it's everything. And I thank you for saying that. Like, I'm getting all teary-eyed. I really believe you have to walk the walk and you have to talk, walk the talk as well. And faith, without works and seeing reflections of yourself from others, and faith without works is really dead in that way. And, I admire so many people in my life and that I either know or I see from afar. And, that's how I continue to stay sober. Like, I see how all these people are doing, that are in recovery, or, we go through different phases and times, and I'll explain that a little bit later. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you've had quite a journey, and you've always been so open about it. And you've talked about food issues, and I was mentioning earlier in the beginning that I've had, I've not had issues with alcohol or drugs, but I think I definitely was addicted to exercise and food, controlling my food, lack of or overeating. Because my mom was an alcoholic, and I wanted to talk to you about, because I got some questions off of people, Twitter and Facebook wrote in. A lot of people there's this thing about genetics and the genetic predisposition for addiction. Now, I have this opinion that I think there is a genetic predisposition that I can see in myself, even though I didn't turn to alcohol or drugs. I definitely was addicted to exercise and that control and the food. And it just wasn't alcohol and drugs for me. Now, what is your take on that?
Okay. First and foremost, it's a fact. It's proven, that it is a gene.
A medical fact.
A medical fact that it is a gene and it's hereditary. On that note, it could be a great, 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 great aunt of yours or your family. It could be right in front of you.
Right.
My family tree is pretty close to me. I don't have to do the work on which
aunt,
great, great, great aunt that was. And I also believe that a lot of times with alcohol and drugs, for example, they, a lot of times people, I believe that most of us are trauma survivors of some sort.
That's a great point.
Through life.
PTSD.
Yes.
Of life.
And then you have have childhood trauma, you have early adulthood trauma, and then you have adulthood trauma. So those layers, plus either I also believe that we either lost coping skills or never got them along the way. So therefore you create these survival mechanisms in your, the way that you become. And children of alcoholics and addicts, they tend to see that stuff and go, I don't want to be like that, but then sometimes you may have had the coping skills that I didn't, and you put a lot of
maybe in some ways, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like put in, a lot of factors for me, for example, and it could be someone else's career, or their the kids they hung out with, at an early age.
Influences.
Yeah, and my influences were supermodels and like hairdressers and designers, and so and I was only as good as my next
simple,
job.
humble people.
Yeah, humble people, and there was never any foundation because I got discovered when I was 13, turning 14. So my life growing up from then on was I'm only as good as my next job, my next cover,
Your
my
weight.
next campaign, my weight.
Your looks.
I was 5'6" and completely like not developed at all when I first got discovered. Cut to 6 months later, they're asking my mom to take me out of school and put me in the gym, and the supermodels taught me how to eat boxes of laxatives and lettuce, and I'm developing. I'm 5'6", I'm now 5'10". So, I started growing, and hips and boobs, everything started kind of coming out.
You're developing at that age.
Yeah, and I just remember like I have a thing with measuring tapes, and so these people were my influences, and it was about never building a foundation within me. Like I'm good enough no matter what. If I have a job, no job, this or that, and that I'm comfortable in my own skin. And my thing was, I know I was picked apart every day, all day long. So that kind of builds in, like that.
That does a number on you.
It does. So say you had that, you and I being brought up, like you had that, the value sent, put in you. I didn't.
Right.
Chances are.
Right.
Yeah.
And
But sorry.
No,
really
go ahead.
quick.
Yeah.
I do believe, from breaking my anonymity on a worldly scale, I do believe that 99.9% of us have some kind of ism at some point in our life.
I agree totally. And I think if you haven't gone to therapy, or if when you finally go to therapy, that happened for me when I turned 50. I had a midlife crisis. I'm 51 now.
You look incredible.
Well, thank
There's
you.
No way.
No, I wasn't fishing for that, but
but I'm serious.
I mean, the shit hit the fan for me at 50. Like my 40s I sailed through, and then at 50 it was like my mom died and a lot of shit happened. But the first thing in therapy, my therapist was like, you have a lot of trauma, Jasper, but then everybody does. But we all develop different coping skills. Some people. So the question is like when someone turns to alcohol or takes their first drink, and they don't have a genetic predisposition for it, is there? Because we all know social drinkers, people that or recreational, I don't know what you call it, that tend to be able to just take a drink or two.
The normal drinker.
Yeah, there is that, right?
There is. I mean, people that we call them normies.
Okay, I didn't know the lingo.
Rooms
yeah.
and program. There's the normies, and then there is a thing called the problem drinker, somebody who's drinking because they have a problem, they deal with a problem, and they don't drink anymore or do drugs. And I'm using drinking, but it could be the problem, binger, eating disorder, or, and you deal with those.
Sex addicts.
Yeah. Sex addicts. A lot of porn, like what Ashley
addicts,
Madison.
Is that bad? No, I'm kidding.
No, the Ashley Madison thing. 87 freaking million people are cheating on that site. 87
and using their credit card.
Well, the interesting thing about sex addicts is, you take a drug or you drink to have a chemical reaction in your brain, right? So sex, you're just getting that internally.
Yeah, well, I don't talk much about this, but I might as well. I have one of the things. One of the things I realized that when doing, the first season of Sober House, we had no idea what this was going to be. I'd never done a reality show. I didn't know what to expect. They didn't. We didn't know what the outcome would be. But I realized at one point that I have to stand in my truth of wherever I am. And I've blogged about it when I was blogging back in the day, and my website, and saying, I went homeless twice in sobriety. But I have had to deal with sex addiction, eating addiction, drugs and alcohol, and these traumas, abuse, it could be physical or sexual or.
Do you find
whatever.
it also falls into finances sometimes? People who overspend, or can't handle their money, blow the money or whatever.
Because I remember when I started doing all the the View and all the radio TV shows, and this one guy on a certain news channel in California.
What's his name?
Channel
and at Sunset Bronx.
And he was like, so do you really think this works? I mean, come on, you're exploiting these people, don't you think? And he's like, I mean, blah, blah, blah. And I looked at him and I was like, no, it has worked. I mean, I'm still sober because of it. Like the shows, you know, and about like.
Oh, he was criticizing the reality show.
Yeah.
Like Celebrity Rehab and Sober House.
Exactly. And so I was like, you know, I have to stand in my truth, you know, and I realized that like, you know, talking about all these things and talking about like sex addiction and other things, what we do is we use to feel something or to numb that
or
pain.
not feel,
or
right?
not feel. Drugs and alcohol are but a symptom. Like after a while, they seriously stop working and it sucks because then you're thinking all the things. And
then the magic wand's not working.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. And like even with sex, like you're just trying to fill that void, you know, that's so weird to do. You know, that void is getting like bigger and bigger and you're just, you know, you're not even realizing. And then there's another thing. Mental disorders that no one likes to talk about.
And the government doesn't, and the medical industry, healthcare doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I can go to the doctors right now and get a pain pill, but I can't get, you know, a mental disorder, depression pill. You know, it's like you have to go through so many holes in order to get that. But a lot of times, like, you don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Is it the mental disorder? Because a lot of times you want to, you know, it calms you down by doing drugs or alcohol, and you have that problem, you know, whether it be depression, bipolar, you know, schizophrenia, psychotic.
You're self-medicating.
You're self-medicating, but then you stop that, and then you're left with a person that's going crazy or like doesn't know what's reality.
Well, like with my mom, for example, she grew, you know, she's born in the 30s or whatever, and when she became sober in her 50s, and she just cold turkey stopped. And she wasn't, which that's part of our genetic personality. I was mentioning I just stopped coffee 6 days ago, but
congratulations.
Thank you. Oh, please help me. But she didn't have the support group. She didn't do the AA. She didn't do that part of it. But I believe, in hindsight, I think my mom was really depressed and bipolar and was just self-medicating because once she stopped and was on an antidepressant, she became a different person. In latter years of her life, we spoke about it. And she kind of basically said, you know, I think I just was depressed, but alcohol was what she turned to. To your point, I think that still happens, right? People are even though there's a lot more medications at your disposal, you can't get them half the time.
Half the time, and then I'll say this, and it's a little rough, and I don't mean anything mean by this to everyone who's listening or watching, is ignorance is bliss.
Right.
You know, and a lot of times, even though there's been this huge movement, and I'm so grateful and honored that I've been part of that movement, but like, you know, I've joined forces with a lot of people, you know, holding hands in that and talking about it, but people still go, that's not my family. You know, that's not me. I don't believe in medication, or my family doesn't have a problem. Like AA doesn't work. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But there's that too, you know, and it makes me sad because a lot of us can get better by addressing things.
There's
you know?
help there.
There is.
But there's still a lot of shame, don't you think?
There's
even today with all the attention on celebrities and everything, there's still, when it's you and your family and it really hits home, there's still shame about it.
Yeah, there is. And I think that just, again, like I always feel like everything and what I've learned by working in treatment, working with so many people and, you know, being in treatment and working with so many doctors for me personally is that, you know, you cut everyone's heads who are in your life today and it goes back to childhood. You know, our traumas are from childhood.
And we say, you know, my parents did the very best they could.
They did, mine
knowing
too.
if you knew better, you'd do better. But this is not about bashing parents, but it's just a kind of reality.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
I'm so glad I don't have kids, but it's a big responsibility.
It is. Sometimes I feel that's why
you know,
I haven't had them yet. Yeah.
Yeah, and you still can.
Yeah.
But I just feel like you're right. I think everything starts in childhood.
Oh yeah. I mean,
good, bad, everything.
Yeah.
So one of the big questions I got is the whole issue of enabling an addict.
Oh.
And this has been a part of my family and my extended family as well. You know, it's so easy to say, especially to parents, well, just kick their ass out or cut them off. And it's usually, and you know, it's so easy because I'm not a parent. I don't have a child. And this is just talking about like a parent who has a child who's an addict. There's that theory of, there's the Dr. Laura school of, you know, just cut them off and that's the only way they're going to survive. And you know, having been down your journey and in your own life, and then seeing people around you, what's your take on the whole enabling? Because it's a really this issue gets to me the most.
This one gets to me lately a lot. The most, I believe enabling exists. I believe that, I wish that type of thing really worked all the time. Just cutting people off and letting them hit their bottom.
Right.
I feel that if you're under 18 and it's your kids, put them in treatment.
Yes.
Do take them into therapy. I don't believe that everyone needs to be on Ritalin. There's so many kids. Their parents are like, "Oh, my kid. I don't have time. I'm going to put them on
ADD.
Ritalin." Yeah, ADD.
Everything's ADD.
I have ADD. I'm not on anything.
I have it right now.
I know, and I don't have anything. I don't take anything. I had to learn to coping mechanisms, tools to not. I can use all the excuses in the world to not be who I am today.
Right.
And be present and blame it on everybody else. But I no longer am a victim.
So,
but the enabling part is,
No.
If you're 18 and older and I am an addict in recovery. I have people who I love, that are in recovery, but they're addicts and alcoholics. I have family members that are, recovery addicts. I have people who drink and do their things, and, that's on them. But I, Jennifer, I'm going to use myself, cannot save anybody.
Right.
That is not, and nobody's God. So I can't save anyone. I could tell people personally, on a personal, I love you. I'm concerned for you. You need help. This is why. And you give them the reasons. I say this all the time when people email me. And then you can either detach with love and tolerance and love them from afar, or you can just, being in recovery, one of the things we say is you don't want to lose the opportunity when they're ready.
Right.
But you don't co-sign the stuff either anymore.
That's good.
And you can't
say
co-sign.
that again. You don't
co-sign
Yeah,
their stuff.
that's good.
Co-signing is a big thing. Like if I'm around, I wouldn't put myself in dangerous situations. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you're on the Housewives, they drink." I'm like, I got sober to live a big life. Like at 5 years sober, it took me a long time. For 5 years, I was only around sober people. I would go out and I'd have sober companions and people around me. But after 5, and I'm 9.5, I was like, I'm ready. But it took baby steps.
Right.
I don't go into a place where there's a lot of cocaine because I would probably use. You know what I mean? I just don't do that.
Right.
I don't put myself in scary situations. Doing a TV show, I'm not risking myself. I know that I'm the one that had the problem. If I could, I would, but I can't, so I don't.
Right. Right. Well, because my whole thing is, it's like I have someone in my life that is now in their 40s, like 47, and they have been basically a heroin addict since they were a teenager. And I watch the torture and what it's done to the family. And, there's this thought sometimes, addicts are the most narcissistic people of all.
Ever. More than comedians.
Or actors or whatever. And then you throw in actors who become addicts.
Which are mainly, not mainly, a lot
yeah,
of them.
Yeah, a lot of it. But I've just, I've watched what has happened to this family. And you have one parent who is the enabler and the other one who has gotten to the point where they're not anymore. And I still say the kid, even though this person's 47, because I still think of them as a kid based on what's happened in their life. You know what I mean?
I do, and you have an amazing point right there, because the day you start drinking for addicts and alcoholics is the day you stop growing emotionally. So I took my first drink at 12, right? I voluntarily took my drink at 12. I stopped growing emotionally then. And now I'm 21. I love that number.
Okay,
but
this
that's
is
why
it. You've
he's
hit
a
on
kid.
it here.
Yeah.
That's why your friend is a kid.
Because he's stunted.
Yes.
Emotionally.
Yes.
Absolutely. And they're trying to live in this grown-up life, and they have no idea. They're going crazy inside. And I have the goosebumps, so the spirit's talking here. And I also want to say that, the parent that enables, my mom, thank God, Al-Anon did not get her before I got sober, but they did get her.
Right.
And then she did a lot of family groups, and that helped her cope, and that helped her put boundaries. And she said, I can no longer enable you into a grave.
That is
This is at the end of the day, alcohol and drugs. If you're if you're sick out there using, or someone is out there using, it is about life or death. No in between.
There's no gray area.
There is. There's not at all. Like when they get sober.
It's just a matter of when.
Yes.
Either way.
Either way.
When are they going to get sober? When is it going to kill them?
Absolutely. Look at Bobby Christina. It is the saddest story, but it happens all the time.
Well, on the Celebrity Rehab show that you were a part of so wonderfully, Dr. Drew, we love him. First of all, there was great success. Many more success stories than not, but the people that have been lost since then. And for me, it's horribly tragic, and I know there was criticism sometimes at the show of like, well, I mean, such and such died. It's like, well,
But
that is the reality.
They die all
of
day
this
long.
disease.
Every 19 minutes, someone is dying from a pill overdose. Every 19 minutes.
Wow.
You know, and you know,
and they had a lot of help. I mean, you know what I mean?
And they had aftercare treatment
Right.
afterwards, and it was up to them. You know, and the thing is, if the person is not willing, you cannot save them. You can't. I used to say this: I can't fight harder for your recovery than you. I can help you, but I can't fight harder. And you know, the family that keeps enabling or saying, "I'm going to give you more money," or "It's okay, it's okay," you know, it's not okay at some point. You know, and the family around you, all the people, the person who's active in addiction or drinking, however you want to call it, the person who's using, everyone around them is slowly dying with them.
You know, it's interesting because I used to, as I was growing up and my mom drank, I would sort of resent my father because he was the enabler, and he was the classic enabler, and I sort of grew up sadly with this sort of weak image of my dad. Like, I used to say, "Oh, should you divorce her? You know, why don't you leave? Whatever." Jump to, you know, years later, and now I grew up, and she got sober, and they stayed together, and I actually saw what strength it took for him to stay with her. But again, it brings me back to that thing. On one hand, but she got sober. So you would say, well, the enabling kind of was good for her in the end because he was there to be with her after she got sober. Had she not ever gotten sober, I wonder what my opinion of that would be. Like if she had, say, alcohol had killed her, for instance, I don't know if my opinion of my dad would have changed. You know what I mean? I probably I would be blaming him for being an enabler. So it's just that's the one area of this that I get so like torn about, you know.
What do you mean? Like, I mean, because you're talking about would have, could have, should have. I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I do that all the time. You know,
and like you said, it's just, I think you answered it for me. Is that there's no gray area. I've been sort of thinking there was a middle ground, and you're right. It's black or white. Mm-hmm. They're either going to get sober or they're not. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, the disease is so deep and so heavy, and it has this disease of alcoholism and drug addiction does not care who you are, who you know, what you do, how much money you have, you don't have, you know, what sect, denomination, gender you are. It doesn't care. It wants us all dead.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it. Like if I, you know, like you're they always say you're either one step in, you know, you're either in recovery or you're in death.
Right.
Like, you know, like it's.
Well, I like to hear. See, that's what I like to hear from someone who's living it. Is because I think a lot of times people kind of sugarcoat it or pussyfoot around it. They don't want to be so blunt about it. Yeah. And that's what I think addicts need to hear is that you're either going to get sober or you're going to die.
Yeah. And, you know, I do believe, and a lot of people are going to kill me for saying this, but I don't believe everyone has to go to treatment. I don't believe that everyone has to do the 12-step, like a 12-step program. For me, it's helped immensely, and I've done them both, and I continuously do, you know, the 12-step program. And
meetings is what meetings are good for you.
Yeah, and I work with a sponsor. I do, you know, the 12-step. I work on my recovery every single day. And not necessarily am I doing the work, you know, but I'm in recovery, and I try to be. Some days I'm not, and I'll explain that later. But I also, you know, believe that people can do it. You know, some people go to church or do, you know, whatever, some spiritual thing. It is a spiritual malady that people suffer from, that we're all suffering from. It's that void that we're talking about.
Which is interesting. You bring up the whole spiritual perspective because I have Lewis Maybe on the line. He's a spiritual advisor. In fact, he wants to comment about this.
Hi, Lewis.
Hi, Lewis.
Thanks for calling in.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you. Good, thank you. And that's so true. It like everyone's on a spiritual journey, and we all suffer from some form of demon or not, whether it be cancer, addiction, or anything else like that. That's all part of a life lesson of the soul, and to be able to reach out for help without fear and living in your truth and your integrity. We're not perfect. We're not meant to be perfect. And by able to reach out and to offer help, whether it be through a program or through support through friends, family, whatever, we can all get through this.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a single journey. It doesn't have to be a journey that makes us isolated from one another. And with the soul perspective of the higher learning, we take all that beautiful information and knowledge that we learned through a negative experience here on Earth as a human, and take it back home to the soul level, and everyone shares in that knowledge to learn how to cope better and to deal better and all that sort of thing.
Right.
So you're definitely on point.
So you dealt with people who've actually passed over from addiction, right, Lewis? You've worked as a medium with people.
Wow.
So I think that's an interesting perspective to bring in, because they're learning a valuable, like you said, a valuable life lesson, but it's impacting so many people. It's bringing people together. It's helping them learn from their experience as well. So I thought that was an interesting perspective, because he's in the chat room talking.
No,
about
I
that.
love that you're saying. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was told this one time, and it like blew me away. They said only through your experience will you have a spiritual awakening. And be able to help people. And I'm like, what does that mean? Like my experience.
Right.
And I can only pull from my experience to walk that talk.
Right.
Well,
I know with my mom, for instance.
That's it. Walk the walk and talk the talk.
Talk the talk. My mom, for instance, faith was her biggest thing, and she had God and the Bible, and that's what got her through it, and she was diligent to the end, even when she was sober about that. Yeah. So, like you said, it's whatever. There's no judgment on treatment.
No, there's not.
There is within the community. I mean, there is within there is judgment.
People are like, oh, they're after your money. You know what? For the most part, it's true in that level. But like, I got great care. I had great people that were counselors and therapists and all this stuff, and they helped me deal. I believe treatment is for when you need to be watched. I needed to be watched and detoxed and all that stuff. And they taught me structure. I still make my bed in the morning. It's all they told me when to eat, poop. Go to group, share, do this, do that, all that stuff. And then I left there, and I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna live. Like for probably 5 months after treatment, I contemplating suicide and using every single day. I didn't know how to live. And then they told me to go, put my life away and put everything in storage. And I went homeless at 9 months sober. And I wasn't in the cardboard box. They said, do you believe in something bigger? And I was like, I guess. And I come from a background of,
Catholic, right?
Christian.
Oh, Christian.
And I was like, I guess. And they're like, well, you better hold on to that. And I promise you that you'll always have food on your table, a roof on your head, over your head, and a pillow to sleep on. And I got to tell you, not one day in my sobriety have I lacked. Not one day.
And that's a lot to do with the Serenity Prayer, right? Right. In the 12-step program as well.
Well, the 12-step program, it has a spiritual base to it, right? They talk about surrendering to a higher power.
Something bigger, as you understand him, her, whatever you want to call it. Like they were like, I don't care if it's a doorknob, know, something bigger than you. And for a long time it was king drugs and alcohol, king alcohol for me, and then that failed me. So I'm still trusting on that God that I just don't understand fully, but I'm learning. I see God in this room right now. I see God over the phone.
Well, I look like Lewis. Jesus sometimes.
Lewis, do you have any advice for Jennifer spiritually?
Oh, spiritually. Oh, Jennifer. Oh my gosh. You're like the second coming. I don't know what you've been doing over the last couple of years, but man, oh man, are you going to be shining brighter and better than ever before.
Oh my God.
I don't know if you're writing a book right now or doing some sort of writing, but if you're not, do it. Wow. Because your message is going to be combined with a few things that you've learned over your life and your life lessons, and you're going to be on stages, you're going to be on shows.
Well, that's a great segue because I want to talk about that.
Thank you
Lewis,
so
that's
much.
so perfect.
Thank
because
you so much. I just really
go ahead.
I just got off the phone with my book agent on the way over here.
That's so great.
And Superbook, right? And you do
well, I was going to segue. Yeah. Well, I was going to talk about Superbook.com, and now you're mentioning a book. So of course, there's no one better to write a book. But let's talk about Superbook.
Thank you so much, Lewis.
Yeah, great segue.
Wow. You're welcome.
So I went to Florida March 2013. I went to this city called Delray, and I had done a photo shoot here a few months prior with these people that worked in Florida, and they live there. And so they were like, oh, we got this photo shoot. You want to do it? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. I went to Florida, and I went to this city called Delray Beach in Florida, and it's beautiful. And I was like, oh, Atlantic Avenue, it's so cute, it's so eclectic, and they should do a show here. I was in that world, and they're like, oh, it's a Capital Recovery, and I'm like, no, I would know. And they're like, no, it's a Capital Recovery. I'm like, I'm the recovery girl. Well, I found out it's the capital of recovery in the world. Wow. Delray Beach.
And you've been in this industry for so long and didn't know that. And I didn't know it either.
Beautiful. And so all of a sudden I was looking, all these people were wanting me to rep their facilities, and then I met this one guy, and he was like, kid, you're up here and you're shooting for here. What the hell is your problem? Do you want to shoot here? Because you can rep all my facilities. Or I have this idea. Why don't you take a look at this? And he was talking about this book, that a magazine he was going to do. And I took a look at it. He's like, if you're interested, give me a call back and we'll figure this out. You know, I came back, I did all the notes I read. I was like, this is so crazy. So I met him a couple days later and I was like, I love this, but you need to do this and that and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, how would you like to be a partner with me? And I was like, what?
Wow.
And my life changed from that photo shoot.
Talk about opportunity.
I mean, it was
meeting
crazy.
Timing, right?
Yeah, and so it's a website, Superbook.com, and a magazine. No names, no faces. However, we're going through under construction for a little while. We were like, it was costing so much to do this magazine. It's for free, and all of a sudden we start getting all these people writing their stories with they're not their names, about incest survivors and the loved one of, and an addict, or how they can't get through this, and it was about any obstacle or adversity you've overcome and how you're getting through that. Because really, when I got sober, it was about one thing. I had to do one thing, and that was change everything. And they didn't tell me all the time, thank God, because I would have ran. But I slowly changed a lot of things, but I'm always changing, So I did this and I was like, oh my gosh. And then all these people started writing stories for me, like celebrities. Renee Graziano from the Mob Wives wrote a story.
I love her.
Brandy wrote a story, a raw and a real story about, being 50%, mom, and 50%, she drinks when they're not there, and it's about being raw and real and like no editing, who you are. Because if you stand in your truth, which is so scary at first, you can never go wrong.
That takes the shame away too.
That
like
takes
no
the
shame.
No shame.
Whatever your story is, just
Exactly.
stand in it.
And it brings back your power.
It
Right,
does.
right.
And it takes away from other people who might use it to
judge it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
throw you under the bus.
And it's interesting because a lot of people always go, "Oh, Jen, look at you. It's so different for you. You're so, you were lucky." And it's like I wasn't born with a golden swan or a spoon or anything. I was in a psych ward, hung myself, as I know you know the story, on January 15, 2006, which is my sobriety date, and I from the fixation, and all, I had a lot of complications. I couldn't speak. I stuttered. I'd be like, gonna be like this. It would take me like a minute to say that forever. And they'd look at me and go, maybe. I would walk and I'd fall. It took me about a month to learn to walk. My brain worked. My body didn't. I would pee and poop on myself. And so I was in diapers. Wow. I would throw up profusely from the withdrawals. It was bad.
Horrible.
And to know where I'm at now, I always go, okay, I got better, because it was many, many, many people that got me here. And it's not always easy. It's a daily reprieve, even though I have 9.5 years, which is just years. It's just a lot of yesterdays put together.
Because you've met people who have 30 and 45. I know
50,
someone that's got 45 years.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
Like that.
and she goes to
in awe of
meetings
them.
every day, twice a day. This is just for her, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing I love about meetings, without naming anything, is there's such my friend can travel anywhere in the world. She was literally in Africa, and this little tribal area, and she found a meeting.
It's beautiful.
And the connections she's made, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, I did that in Rome one time, and I was sober, and then I had relapse. So I was going to meetings in Rome. I was there for a month and a half, and it was so cool. Everyone, people in recovery, they're undercover, but they're everywhere. I chose to break my anonymity,
Right.
but I don't believe everyone has
No.
to. But one of the things is it's life. I don't know how to be 9.5 years sober. Yesterday was a rough day. Yesterday I went to bed at 5:30 because I just came back from Florida a couple days ago.
All the traveling,
Yeah,
too,
the traveling just takes me off. Yeah, and I was in my head, and I went to bed at 5:30 in the morning. I got a call at 5:47, and my uncle, who's my mom's brother, his wife, her brother-in-law died. And so he was 49.
Oh.
And I got that call in the morning. And then I got in a fight with my boyfriend, and it was on me, and I was crazy. And I was I'm breaking up with you. I was 13, and I was what'd I just do? And and then I call and and it was me. And then I had another thing, and then my finger, I got it stuck in the window. It's purple.
Wow.
My middle finger.
Well, luckily it was that one.
I know. And I was screaming. And then I suffer from migraines, got a migraine. And then
I do too. Oh my God. We'll
Imagex,
talk off
yeah.
air about that.
The craziest thing. So then I'm in the floor, in fetal position, talking to my boyfriend, crying, going, well, I was happy once in my life. I fell apart, and he's like, baby, you just need to sleep. You need to go to bed and you need to sleep.
But those are triggers that
These
can
are
trigger.
triggers. And I go, how am I going to, and I looked up in the air and I was like, God, how the fuck, are you gonna get me out of this? And like he was, and then after I talked to my boyfriend, I went and I fell asleep like an hour later, and I woke up today, and the first thing I said was, I choose to be happy because life fucking happens.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a series of choices. It really is a series of choices.
Right.
It is.
Yeah.
It
It's like a
is.
choose your own adventure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know,
I mean,
in
life
many
happens. Unfortunately, there's tragedy.
Yeah.
There's great things. There's bad things.
It's
just
how we
life.
cope with it.
It is.
And for an addict, sometimes that is can be
Medicating,
horrific
Yeah.
for any of us. But for an
Mhm.
addict, those are the things they have to watch out for. The trigger things that can trigger the addiction again.
Absolutely.
I can't believe the time. What's
It's-
the time? This is really okay.
It's
So everyone, of course,
so
Jennifer on Twitter is at Jennifer Gimenez, right?
Gimenez.
Right. And you have a website.
Yes. JenJimenez.com.
And I think JW
I
is
do have it
putting
on the
all
screen.
this on the
Yeah,
screen.
thank you.
And pictures of Superbook. Yeah.
Superbook.com. I can't believe I haven't seen you in so long. I love you so
know.
much.
I love you too. I'm not resentful anymore.
Oh,
Yay! I've been free.
you can come back anytime.
I would love to.
I love
This is
you.
amazing.
You are so
Thank you.
inspiring to so many people.
You're gonna make me. Thank
Oh,
you.
no, you really are. Thank you guys so much. Now, listen, next week we have Donzale Abernathy, the daughter of Ralph, civil rights activist Ralph Abernathy, and she's going to be. She's amazing. She's done so much for civil rights, and we're going to talk about as two fellow Georgians who's from Atlanta. She's going to talk about all she has going on, and check out the website, and again, follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And JW, thank you so much as
you.
always.
My pleasure.
It's so
Thank
good
you
to
so
see
much,
you.
Jennifer. I loved your story,
Oh,
and
thank
you
you.
really are an inspiration.
Thank
Yes,
you so
she is.
much.
Yes, yes.
And
Thank
she's
you.
so hot.
She is.
Okay.
Beautiful inspiration.
Thank you so much. You've been
I'll take
watching
it.
and listening one-on-one with Jasper
And thank you,
Cole.
Lewis, maybe for calling
Oh,
in.
Lewis, thank you so
Lewis.
much.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
We'll see you next week, same time, same place.
Bye.
Peace out.
Thanks for checking out One-on-One with Jasper Cole. Check out past episodes and get the latest as they're released. Subscribe today on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube.